Welcome to Buffalo Rumblings Live. My name is Matt Warren. I'm joined not by Brian Galford today, but by our contributor, Dan Lavoie. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Oh, that's weird. My name's Matt, again. And it's kind of a fun day to be a Bills fan. They overcame a lot of stuff last week, as we, of course, posted on BuffaloRumblings.com, on Facebook, and then, of course, on Twitter at Buff Rumblings. Lots of pictures, lots of dealing with the snow, taking snowmobiles to work and walking 400 yards through the snow in 45 minutes, as Kyle Orton did, things like that. I was kind of surprised with how well the Bills came out on that first drive against the New York Jets, Dan. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected it a little bit, given how well they played earlier in the season, but it's still nice because of how often we've struggled to just move down the field and score, to see the Bills just kind of execute all the way early on in the game.
And they actually get the red zone monkey off the back so early. I think Sal Capaccio has been pounding this drum for a couple weeks, is that the Bills just were kind of, I don't know, white-knuckling it in the red zone. They were just trying so hard to get it right that there was no possible way they could actually do that. They were just I'm explaining it poorly, but to get the monkey off their back, and I think it had a lot to do with Robert Woods making a great catch, but to get the monkey off their back so early, I think really kind of set everyone at ease right off the bat.
Yeah, I think they definitely needed to loosen up. They've kind of had that stress going on for a few weeks now. Everybody knows that they've been struggling in the red zone, so I think to get it going early and just have that they knew they could do it made it a lot easier for the rest of the game.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what actually happened in that game. Have you gone back and actually watched any of it yet?
I watched it live last night. I haven't gotten to do any rewatching of it, though.
Okay. Yeah, we're in a kind of a weird week here, Buffalo Bills fans. We had the Monday night game, and then we have Thanksgiving on Thursday, so we didn't want to do this Wednesday night because, college kids like Dan have to go out and party and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that how it works? I think I went out one Thanksgiving Wednesday when I was in college, maybe. I don't know.
You got to go at least once, right?
It was a long time ago, Dan. Okay, it was a long time ago. And then, of course, Thanksgiving is Thursday, so we didn't want to do anything then. So we're rolling here on Tuesday night, and so it's just kind of weird. We haven't had a chance to really thoroughly break down the Bills game yet, and I haven't really even looked at the Browns yet. I know, thankfully, Dan has, so we'll talk about that. But what did you see from the game that, I don't know, gives you hope for the rest of the season that this Bills team can go on a 5-game winning streak and maybe make the playoffs or make at least a playoff push?
I think the number one thing for me that stood out was the offensive line, which has been a huge issue all year long, but we finally had the ball, that we were moving it both with the run and the pass, and there wasn't really a lot of pressure on Kyle Orton for most of the night. I was worried going into the game. Sheldon Richardson is a great player. Muhammad Wilkerson is a monster, but Wilkerson hurt himself during the game. But we didn't really hear a lot from most of those players, and the Bills were finally able to get some good rushing attempts in, and I think that was the biggest problem that we had going into the game.
I apparently just tweeted Dan's name, so it that was the noise you heard. Yeah, in the first game against the Jets, they managed just 67 rushing yards, despite being up by a lot for the vast majority of that game, and then in this game they were able to get 116. In those two games against the Jets, the Bills' offense has only managed a combined, 716 yards in two games. They really haven't had a lot of offense, but they've had some big special teams plays, of course, the Boobie Dixon pump block and things like that, plus, of course, the 6 turnovers in the first game. It's just kind of weird to see them put up 81 points and have so few yards comparatively. I don't know. It's just so weird.
I mean, a lot of it's just that they get all those short fields when they have such a great defense, and the special teams plays that you mentioned. They don't have to go very far in order to score, and so that kind of works out for them. But I haven't gotten a chance to look even at the per attempt numbers, but I have a feeling that they were pretty good this week too.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop into the box score right now. So you just mentioned the defense, and they had some. I think that the final number was 7 sacks. I can't remember if that last play counts.
6 or 7, something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know if the last play counted. He was scrambling, but he was definitely behind the line when Hughes pushed him up. Dollar signs after it now, because that guy's just making bank this year. But the defense, other than Corey Graham dropping an interception in the end zone that could have led to the Bills' shutout, what did you see from the defense that really was like standing out? Because it's hard to say that Mario Williams getting a pair of sacks is standing out for that guy. He's been on fire the last 2 weeks. Jerry Hughes got a sack. Kyle Williams got a sack. But what was different? I mean, we know those guys are going to be great. What was different about the defense this week?
I mean, if I'm honest, I think the difference was just that the Jets were playing, and it's terrible. I mean, Michael Vick, he was great. He's not really that good anymore. He was missing throws around the field. He was making bad reads, and a lot of that was also just the scheme that Jim Schwartz was using. I think he put together some zone packages that were tough for Vick to kind of diagnose, and the Bills just didn't make mistakes, which was really important. The one big mistake I noticed was on that long play to Eric Decker that he went through his hands. Aaron Williams made a poor read there. He should have picked up the deep zone from Stephon Gilmore, and he didn't do that. And that was almost a huge play that could have been something, but the receiver just didn't connect to the QB there. And
people would have crushed Stephon Gilmore for that.
Oh, I wasn't in the game thread, but I'm sure they already were. So
just like he's the one offensive play the Jets had, Stephon Gilmore didn't make a play.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the guy had half an inch to make the play is partly because Stephon Gilmore shoved him over there. So just keep that in mind, folks. I thought Gilmore played a nice game, even giving up that long pass. And yeah, he gave up the long pass. Eric Decker made a heck of a play to make that even possible. I'm still sad that the Jets scored because it took a huge punt return and a Corey Graham drop in the end zone for it to even happen.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'm looking at looking through the offensive stats real quick. So Kyle, these doesn't have the YPA on there. I'll have to do math. But Kyle Orton, an efficient day, 24 of 32. For 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did take, a sack or 2 that I wasn't looking for him to take. But I think my favorite Kyle Orton play of the entire game was the 10-yard scramble on 3rd and 8. And I heard a crazy stat today from, why can't I think? What's his first name? Montemarno on. I was listening to 950 with Scott Petoniak and. Is it Peter Montemarno? Yeah, from the ESPN radio station here in Rochester, and the Bills were. Let me just make sure I get this right. The Bills had 7 first down conversions on 3rd down. They were 7 of 13. They were 7 of 7 if it was 3rd and 8 or longer. So all of their 3rd and shorts, everything like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 1, they couldn't convert. They were 0 and 6 on them. But anything that was longer than 8 yards or longer than 7 yards, they were able to convert those, including that scramble by Kyle Orton. It's just a crazy stat, and not something that's sustainable, certainly, but those 3rd down conversions certainly kept them in the game, and whether it was Robert Woods putting it off the side of his helmet or they were just able to sustain drives when they needed to, and that was pretty cool to watch as far as the offense goes. What did you see from the offense that you liked this week?
Well, I mean, Robert Woods, for one thing, that catch on the sideline, I think that was better than Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch, personally. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased, but the helmet, the sidelines, the way he juggled that there, that was an awesome catch. And on a day when Sammy Watkins he's getting double covered, he dropped a couple passes. Woods stepped up in a big way, and that helped the offense get down the field. So, yeah, that was kind of what stood out the most for me. It was nice to see Boobie Dixon kind of going all over the field, doing his big play on special teams. He had that long touchdown run, so that was good. And I like seeing Fred Jackson back out there because the offense needs him, and getting him out there. And even though he wasn't doing a whole lot, but he had some good runs. He got a touchdown in there, and I don't think we've really had a lot of touchdown runs this season. So
not a lot, no.
So it was good to see them at least get the rushing attempts working in the red zone because they need that in order to be successful.
They've had 5 rushing touchdowns this year, which seems to just be weird. I'm glad you mentioned Anthony Dixon because you failed to mention the fact that he also took some snaps at fullback in the goal line package with Frank Summers inactive. So they must have felt like they got more from Chris Gregg in the 3 tight end sets than they were getting from Frank Summers and his special teams ability. So they put Boobie Dixon in at fullback on some of those short yardage plays that didn't work, but they were there anyway. Looking at some of those stats, I worked the averages. They were over 7 yards of passing attempt. They were at 9.6 on yards per completion. That's for Orton. He had a long of 37. That one was to Robert Woods down the sideline. I mean, it was an efficient day, and Eric Wood used that term on WGR this afternoon in Buffalo, Sports Radio 550, during his weekly interview. He's like, we weren't great. We were just efficient, and I thought it was a perfect word. They were able to pick up yardage when they needed to, move the ball down the field, and get what they wanted. Just like you said before, they were playing the Jets, so it's not like they needed to get, a touchdown every time they touched the ball, and I don't think that they were pressing because of that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And on defense, Ty Powell gets his first NFL sack. Jerry Hughes did get 2, so that one at the end does count. Nickel Roby gets 1, Kyle Williams gets 1, and Mario Williams gets 2. 5.5 sacks in his last 2 games.
He's just so good.
I know, and the fact that nobody's complaining about him right now and his contract just tells you how good he's been playing. Because that contract is stupid. Like that's just. I mean, I'm not saying that Buddy Nix was stupid for giving it to him, but the contract, just looking at the numbers,
stupid money. It is.
And the fact that nobody's complaining about it. I mean, he's not quite at 1 sack a game, but good Lord, he's like playing just as well as any defensive end in the league, just about. I mean, J.J. Watt is scoring touchdowns all over the place. All right, so let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture right now, and that'll kind of segue us into our conversation about the Browns. My name is Matt Warren. I don't have my little tag on the bottom of the screen tonight. I'm here with Dan Lavoie, Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at Buffalo Rumblings School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And why?
Then I'd be done after this year.
That's what happens to the third man at Buffalo Rumblings. Haven't you been paying attention? We get a new one every single year. In fact, it turns over usually faster than that. So you should be expecting huge phone calls for promotions very soon from other blogs who are trying to steal you. That's generally what happens. Blackthorn asked a question. Thought Dan was taller than that. Go figure. I don't know. I haven't been looking at you. Oh, your camera's
I'm sitting down, so I don't know. Like I could sit up. Maybe I'm just slouching. I don't know.
Man.
I'm not even standing here. I don't know how you could judge that.
Yeah, it's like by measuring how big your head is. I don't know if that's accurate. So let's see here. So yeah, we got. You can always, of course, ask questions at our BuffaloRumblings.com, Buffalo Rumblings live page over on the website. So let's look at the AFC standings. The Bills, the 6-5 Buffalo Bills, are currently 11th in the AFC. That is tragic. Is there any chance the Bills make the playoffs, Dan?
I said it after the loss to the Dolphins. I think if they win out, they make the playoffs. I think if they lose one more game, they're probably out, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am. I think I can't remember what site it was, and I'm sorry, I'm not citing sources and everything like that. But if the Bills go 10-6, they have a 33% chance of making the playoffs, and I think this year that number, statistically speaking, might even be high. They're going to have to overcome the AFC North. All of those teams are 3 games over .500, and they only get to play one of them down the stretch. Now, those teams are going to play each other and knock each other off a little bit, but the Bills play the Broncos, Packers, and Patriots, who, of course, have the potential to knock the Bills off. And the Bills have tiebreakers over none of them. If the Bills run the table, they'll own the tiebreaker over the Miami Dolphins, I believe. Let me just...
I think based on the divisional record, it could be.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm so, excuse me, I'm sorry, guys. The division record for the Dolphins right now is 2-1, so they still have 3 games left to play. Man, have they not played the Jets at all? God, like they're playing the Jets this week.
Yeah, they won against the Patriots and the Bills, so.
Yeah, so they're playing the Jets this week. So even if we chalk it up to 2 wins, they still have to play the Patriots. And so if Miami runs the table in the division, they'll have a better division record. So we can't say that for sure right now. But if they're going next tiebreaker, the next tiebreaker is record in common games. I'm looking it up right now. Head-to-head, then division, then win games. So I'm pretty sure that the Bills would lose that just based on the fact that they can't beat anyone in the West, and the Dolphins beat their schedule or anything like that. So in any event, the Bills are probably going to have to be a game clear of the Dolphins. They're probably going to have to be a game clear of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, just because they have better AFC records, conference records, which would be the tiebreaker that would be used to determine those breaks for the wild card a little bit later. They, of course, lost to the San Diego Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs, so they'll have to be a game better than them. And all of those teams are sitting at 7-4, just looming over the Bills. The really only team that they control their own destiny against right now is the Cleveland Browns, who come to town this week. And this game's got some serious playoff implications in the AFC, so much so that the Bills are actually getting one of the higher up CBS crews. They're getting Greg Gumbel and Trent Green this week, so it's no more Spiro Dedes or whatever his name is. No more Archuletas of the world and things like that. Yeah, that's what I tweeted out today. Moving on up, I was like, yeah, it's nice. So this game in the AFC, of course, comes right now. The Browns are in last place in the AFC North, but they're tied for second place, and they're a half game back of the Cincinnati Bengals in first place. So they're right in the thick of it. Mike Pettin has done a nice job turning around this team. When you watch the Cleveland Browns, and you watched, just to be clear, you watched this last week's game against the Atlanta Falcons, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so when you watch the Cleveland Browns with Josh Gordon and all of the weapons at their disposal, what stuck out to you against the Atlanta Falcons this week?
You know, offensively, they sort of reminded me of the Bills in a little way. They lost their starting center, Alex Mack, earlier in the season, so they're running a backup there. They're trying to kind of leverage their game, starting with the running game. They have 2 rookie running backs this year. They have Isaiah Crowell, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and then they have Terrence West, and both of those guys they're kind of doing a timeshare. They had Ben Tate earlier as the starter, but they cut him earlier in the season, so they're running behind that line and getting mixed results, but they're very much a running-focused team. They have Brian Hoyer as their quarterback, and maybe partially because Josh Gordon's been out all season, they just haven't really been much of a passing attack. So it's a lot of runs, a lot of play action, trying to kind of get the linebackers forward so they can open up the middle of the field for some passing.
The Cleveland Browns come into this week as the 11th best passing attack in the NFL. How is that number even possible?
Well, I'm not sure it's so much of a. It might be. I think it's just the yards per attempt factor. It's that they're attempting a lot of lower percentage but higher yardage types of passes, and I think that plays into the play action so much. They're throwing deeper down the field because they want to open up with the running game.
Yep, net yards per attempt is 7.2 net yards. That includes sacks, so it's not just the yardage divided by the attempts. So they're 5th in the league behind the Broncos, Packers, Colts, and Cowboys, and that is not a stat I would have expected out of them.
Yeah, and they're actually, although they try, they've almost got a 50-50 pass rush split going on right now, but their rushing attack is really not that productive. They're running at 3.6 yards per rush, so
Yep, 28th in the league.
It's a lot like what the Bills have been trying to do, where they well, at least in 2013, where they were running a whole bunch of times, not getting a lot of yards, or at least not per rush, but they were still putting up a lot of yards, and then throwing passes off of the play action to try to open up the deeper ball.
And they haven't been turning the ball over very much. They have been efficient. I know we keep using that term, but that's really how you win in the NFL, is you let the other team make mistakes. The Patriots have been doing it to the Bills for a decade. Just let the Bills shoot themselves in the foot. It's what the Bills did against the Jets twice, for the love of Pete. So they're not running a ton of plays. They're 8th in the league as far as number of plays, so that's good. They're not getting a particularly great return on their investment at 5.5 yards per play, but all of those numbers are ahead of the Bills. So
I know a big thing that they've struggled with all season has been third down. I think they were the second worst team in the league when it came to third down percentage coming out into the Atlanta game, and when it was third and long, they were something like 28th in the league. So this is a team that, at least offensively, they really can't stay on the field during third downs. They have a 32% success rate on those third downs, so that's something that Buffalo's gotten better at under Jim Schwartz, and I think that they'll be able to exploit that on offense. It's just, this is what our defense does best. We get them into third down, and then we sack them, and that's it.
So you mentioned Jim Schwartz. What should we expect from Mike Pettin and his defense against an offense that practiced against a similar defense, at least, for 16 games and an entire offseason and all that stuff last year?
Well, this is very much a lot of what we saw last year. It's that same kind of it's a 3-4-ish base. He doesn't have as much talent as he did when the Bills were playing, so the sack numbers are down. The rushing defense, again, we remembered this from last year, was the rushing defense kind of struggled, even though the pass defense was really good. And so the Browns are weak up the middle, but they're going to throw a lot of confusing looks out there, and they're going to be opportunistic. They'll get turnovers because they're going to be tough to read.
Speaking of turnovers, Dante Whitner has 1 interception on the year. Is Dante Whitner a guy that Bills fans should be concerned about seeing this week?
Not particularly. I think he is what it is. He's like an above average starting safety in the NFL who he can hit you really hard. When he's not making a mistake, he's going to be a dangerous player. But we all know that Dante will make mistakes during the game, and just in the first half of the game that I saw, he made 1 or 2 missed reads, including one that gave up a long touchdown pass against the Browns. So, and then to make matters worse for Cleveland, they lost their other starting safety, Tishawn Gibson, to an injured PCL, and he's out for the season. So he was their better safety, and so Dante's going to need some help for the next couple games. Yeah,
Gibson had 6 interceptions just in 11 games. Whitner, of course, had one fall right off of his hands right before he let up that touchdown throw. Whitner does lead the team in tackles, and Joe Hayden is second. So people are getting into the secondary, and hopefully Buffalo can use some of their speed guys to get into the secondary and exploit some of those matchups. Do you expect Joe Hayden to be lined up on Sammy Watkins? Are they going to do the same thing that the Jets did and essentially double team Sammy, leaving Robert Woods to have a field day?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Pettin kind of mix it up a little bit. Joe Hayden he can run hot and cold, almost like Gilmore can. Some plays he just will look like really fantastic, like one of the best, and then another play he'll totally mess up the stance he's taking when he's doing man coverage. And I saw him give up a long pass play to Roddy White that, if he was just taking proper form and following him the whole way, it would never happen. So I think that Joe Hayden's definitely going to be used a lot on Sammy Watkins, but they have a couple other good corners. Buster Screen had a good start to the game against Atlanta, and I think that they'll probably line him up a few times. But Pettin loves his blitzes too, and I'm sure he's going to be sending guys all over the field just to keep us on our toes.
Yeah, I will definitely be on my toes with the Mike Pettin. I would assume that he's going to do something that we're not expecting in this game. I don't know what that could possibly be, but it's just going to mean more to him. I would think. I mean,
I mean he it's not like we fired him. We let him go, but I'm sure he wants to show to Doug Marrone that he and show to Doug Whaley that he was worth keeping around, or worth making a head coach. The one name that people might want to watch out for is going to be Jordan Cameron, because the tight end's coming back from either a concussion or a shoulder injury. He's had a couple injuries this season, but anyone who plays fantasy football knows that he's going to get a ton of yards and score a lot of points when he's on the field, and him and Josh Gordon together are going to create problems for the defense.
I'm sorry it slipped my mind when we were talking about Gibson's injury, but a guy that might be getting a whole lot of snaps in his place is Jim Leonard, who the Bills might be able to maybe exploit. He hasn't had any starts this year, but he's played in all 11 games. He's only got 6 tackles, and he hasn't been a huge part of their defense, but he's a guy that can step in right now and fill Gibson's spot, at least on the field, and not make any mistakes, almost like he did last year with the Bills when they had their safety problems. A guy that we'd be remiss not to talk about is Paul Kruger, who's got 8 sacks on the year. He's got 4 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. He's been very, very good for the Cleveland Browns at that defensive outside linebacker position. How do you think the Bills are going to neutralize him? Cordy Glenn hasn't been having a great season, but you said the offensive line played better this week. Are they going to be able to chip with, say, Fred Jackson or one of the tight ends? Maybe get Lee Smith under his skin?
Yeah. Well, if I remember right when I was watching, I think that who are we talking about? Paul Kruger. I think Paul Kruger actually plays over the right tackle most of the time. And Jabal Sheard is their guy who rushes over the defensive right side. So it's mostly going to be matched up against Seantrell Henderson this time around. I think they'll probably do a lot of that same strategy we've seen from Cameron Wake and a couple of the other pass rushers that have come through here. Is there's going to be tight ends on that side. They're going to be chipping a lot, especially because Jabal Sheard he's not had a great season rushing the passer. He only has 2 sacks this year, so they're not too concerned about him, but I think they'll give some extra attention to the right side of the offense this time around.
Mm-hmm. There was one specific question for you, Dan Lavoie, in our comment section that I wanted to get to before we moved on. And it says, does Halliday have any chance making it as a UDFA? I'm hoping that you know who Halliday is.
Yeah, I've been talking with the Bills every now and then, and he goes to, or he's I don't know if he's an alum or whatnot, but he roots for Washington State, and their quarterback Connor Halliday, he broke now I'm gonna be mad that I missed this. He broke a bone, either an arm or a leg or something like that. He's done for the season, and this is a guy who was playing throwing ridiculous amounts of passes in Mike Leach's spread offense. I think he broke the record for passing yards in a game. He had something like 730 passing yards in a game this season. And so I was interested in him because he's a quarterback that he's on the skinny side, but was putting up big numbers and showed that he had a good arm. And it's tough that he had to end up missing the rest of the season and effectively the rest of his college career because of that injury. But to answer the question, yeah, I don't think he ends up seeing the draft at all. He was kind of a maybe day 3 pick going into the half point of the season, but I do think he sees some excitement once the UDFA season comes around. He's he's a lot similar to those other quarterbacks we've seen, like Case Keenum has come through here. There's a couple guys. The spread offense QBs do put up a lot of numbers. Kellen Moore was another one.
Jeff Toole, come on.
Jeff Toole came from the same college, and honestly, I think Connor Halliday was better than Jeff Toole, but that's just me. And so, yeah, I do think he sees some action during the UDFA times, and I don't know what his NFL future looks like because I don't have the rest of the season to find out. But I think he's all right. I think he's a pretty good one.
All right, well, Dan Lavoie, we haven't had you on Buffalo Rumblings Live yet, so there's a couple things that I wanted to ask you. What's your favorite part about writing for Buffalo Rumblings?
Well, it's definitely the community. That's kind of how I got started on Buffalo Rumblings, was as a commenter on the site. So there have been a lot of fans who've come here and have been here for years and years, and everyone knows each other at this point, and there's always great discussions going on. There's always good back and forth between the writers and the commenters, and I think that out of all the media sites and fan sites out there, you can't really get better back and forth discussion than we do at this site.
Yeah, and I'm fully on board with that. That's one of the reasons I like Buffalo Rumblings so much too. And I, just like you, I got started in the comment section, and now I'm like on videos and stuff.
Yeah, what's with that?
I know. I don't get it. It must be my beautiful face. No. Anyway, and so tell folks what you're passionate about. What is the thing Dan Lavoie loves to write about for Buffalo Rumblings?
Well, it's the NFL draft, and I'm not sure why that is, but because I don't even go to a school with a big football program, but I'm always been interested in the idea of trying to scout who's going to be a good player, seeing if you can predict somebody that's going to bust, finding the small school guy who's the next Fred Jackson that's going to come out of a small school and become a big star for a team, and there's also a lot of potential for more analysis in that field. You can tie in analytics to this kind of decision because a team's going to be committing to it for a while, and so I don't really write as my academics. I'm a computer guy, so I just kind of happened into the draft, and it's cool. I like what I do.
That's good. The guitar on the wall, is it yours?
Yeah, it's mine.
So, what do you like to play?
Okay, so I've had this guitar for a while. I haven't gotten to play a whole lot, but I mainly do kind of half and half of classic rock and jazz. So I'll do Foreigner, Boston, Rolling Stones, whatever. I'll do some jazz music too. I also play the trumpet, so been a little busy to play lately, but it's always nice to have around in case I want to jam a little.
Yeah, college will do that to you. It'll make you busy from time to time. All right, well, are there any questions you want to ask me tonight?
I don't know. How have you been? You getting ready for? So you're sticking around for Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I've got like a 6-week-old kid. I don't want to go anywhere with that thing screaming in the back seat.
No, you don't want to expose other people to the joys of.
No, we're going over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house, and that's about it. So we're not taking a sleigh though, like the song says. We're taking my SUV. Anyway, I got one last thing on the Browns I want to say before we get out of here, and it has to do with Mike Pettin and his daughter Megan. So I just want to say it's the Browns, but hey, still pretty cool. All right.
I actually don't. I wasn't aware of the Mike Pettin thing. If you want to expand on that real quick.
All right. So when Mike Pettin was interviewing for this job, his daughter was supposedly direct messaging someone on Twitter, and it didn't go through. So when he got back for his second interview, she tweeted someone, said, "It's the Browns, but hey, still pretty cool," meaning,
That's right. Okay, now I remember that. Yeah. Always good to know that we aren't the last place team in everyone's heart.
Right, exactly. I mean, who wants to go to the Browns? Anyway, so Dan Lavoie, I'm looking forward to having you on in the future. I thank you very much for your knowledge and expertise. Thanks for watching some of the Browns game so I didn't have to. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a good night, guys. Bye.